finally the paper that all of you all have been waiting for with bated breath. अभी उत्सव ने लिखा भी ZAT के लिए कितना वेट कराओगे सर आप. ZAT आ गया है and good that GP is here. His one of his favorite exams. I think I really enjoy this exam as well. GP, maybe over to you to take us through ZAT.
Sure.
And
Sure,
we
अच्छा.
also have GP one DM set. Just so that आप
ठीक है.
डिस्कस कर पाओ एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट के लिए. Just putting it there.
ठीक है. तो पहली चीज है, we need to understand that unlike CAT, which is a number or maths heavy paper, this is a verbal heavy paper. So if you look at 2 out of the 3 sections are more about reading and understanding, and only one which is calculation, which is the third section, quantitative ability. So there's about 60% verbal and 40% numbers. Okay, if I can use that. There's a part 2 GK, यार कुछ खास important नहीं है. As long as you read newspapers regularly हो जाएगा. इसके 20 सवाल के लिए 10 मिनट क्यों देते हैं मुझे आज तक नहीं समझ आया. 5 मिनट में हो जाता है, 15 मिनट लोग इधर उधर देख रहे होते हैं, क्योंकि GK is something either you know or you don't know. Okay. Secondly, it has got 5 choices. Because it has 5 choices, the negative marking is 0.25 negative. Okay, and correct answer is +1, negative marking is -0.25. Okay, and इसमें एक अजीब सी चीज है that the unattempted question also you are given a negative marking of 0.1. Okay, but the first 8 unattempted in the paper, no negative marking. So out of the, let's say, if you look at the first 3 sections, verbal, decision making, and quant, this is 28 plus 20, it says 75 questions. Huh? Let me assume you attempted 55 questions just for the ease of calculation. 55 सवाल, you have left 20 questions. So first 8 questions you left, no negative marking. Balance 12, you will get a negative marking of -0.1, so you lose 1.2 marks. And this 1.2 marks will be distributed between the 3 sections in the order of, in the ratio of unattempted question. Okay. So complicated hai,
GP,
but very simply.
GP, in the ratio of the number of questions per section, they changed it. So
Achha, they
26
changed
question
this
hai
year,
aapka verbal mein. Yeah. They changed it actually last year itself. So it will become 26 by 75 into 1.2. ये नेगेटिव हो जाएगा आपका वर्बल के लिए.
Decision making अभी similar 21 by 75 and quant 28 by 75. But मोटा ले लो, as you lose about 0.4 to 0.5 marks or 0.35 to 0.5 marks in each of the 3 sections. Now to me that does not mean I should mark an answer. कई स्टूडेंट्स बेवकूफी कहते हैं कि यार नेगेटिव मार्किंग फॉर अनअटेम्प्टेड तो मार्क करो, बट मेरा बहुत सिंपल है. इफ आई मार्क एंड गेट अ नेगेटिव, I lose -0.25. If I don't mark, I lose a -0.1. So I will mark an answer if it's a reasonably good educated guess. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it. If I don't know anything about the question, भैया छोड़ो आगे चलो, -0.1 अच्छा होता है, -0.25 से is the basic thing I will look at. Okay. गौतम अगली स्लाइड पे जाएंगे, इवेंट क्या है? हाँ ये देख लेते हैं. देखो पहली चीज दैट की ये आ जाती है कहानी. टुमारो विल बी हैविंग अ डिटेल्ड सेशन ऑन दिस आल्सो, बट ये टाइम देता है. If you compare it with the other papers, this is giving you all double the amount of time of SNAP and IPMAT, and almost let's say 50% more time as compared to ZAT, as compared to CAT. Sorry. So ये फुर्सत वाला पेपर है, जल्दबाजी करने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं होती है. Unlike SNAP and IPMAT where you are rushing through it, and CAT also puts some kind of time pressure, but when it comes to that, there is no time pressure. You leave a question not because you are out of time, but because you can't solve or you don't know what the answer is. That is the reason. Okay? So पहली चीज ये है. Second, decision making section is unique to this paper, a very very interesting section, and थोड़ा लेकिन इसकी तैयारी करनी होती है. For the simple reason, decision making, many people let's say confuse it with reading comprehension. Yeah, you have to read the passage to understand, but the decision criteria have to be identified. Reading comprehension, reading and understanding the passage. Here you have to read the situation, identify what are the decision criteria, and based on that you take a decision. कौन सी मूवी देखनी है? You will not just walk into the nearest movie hall or just whichever movie is running on the out there and watch it. There will be some criteria. अच्छा इस तरह की मूवी देखनी है, क्या कहते हैं, this kind of story I want to see, or this kind of an actor is what I prefer watching. So there has to be a criteria for any decision, and that criteria is something which you have to identify. Third thing is, as what I started with on the previous slide itself, भैया ये language paper है, numbers वाला इतना नहीं है. So those of you who are good in verbal, English, reading comprehension, but not so good in quant DILR, भैया तुम्हारा ये सबसे important paper है. And those of you have not applied for it so far, please remember there's you still have a couple of days. You can apply for it, and while you can apply through ZAT also, ZAT की website से, you can go to easy apply in your CL zone, and my zone में जाके वहां से apply कर लो easy apply से, वहां पे तुमको कुछ कुछ थोड़ा बहुत benefits भी मिल जाएंगे. Okay?
Yeah. GP, just one thing if I were to add is especially if you are those who who's worried about quant, the good part is DI भी quant के section में आ जाता है और वो generally 8 से 10 क्वेश्चन आते हैं. अगर आपने 6-7 मार्क वहां निकाल लिए, then to quant you need 2-3 questions.
गौतम एक बार पिछली स्लाइड पे वापस चलाएगा बिकॉज द नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस गिवन देयर. हाँ, बाद में डिटेल आएगा, बट ये देख लो, आउट ऑफ 28 क्वेश्चन देयर आर अबाउट 8 to 9 or 10 क्वेश्चन व्हिच आर वर्बल और व्हिच आर सॉरी DI, एंड दीस आर टिपिकली 3 सेट्स. सो एज गौतम सेड 8 से 10 सवाल होते हैं, रफली 18 to 20 क्वेश्चन आर योर क्वांट, एंड उस क्वांट में अगेन यू हैव मे बी अ बिट लेंथी क्वेश्चंस, बट मुश्किल नहीं होते हैं. सो यू कैन फुर्सत में कर सकते हो. And if you look at 170 minutes available for these 75 odd question means verbal logic and decision making तुम कुछ भी करोगे 50-55 minutes you'll be over with it each. Okay, so about 100 minutes gone between these two sections, and you'll have about 70 minutes for QA. बहुत हुआ तो 65 minutes हो जाएगा. Okay, and which is why I'm saying this is a paper which you should be willing to spend time. And अगर कट ऑफ भी देखते हो, verbal logic is typically and decision making typically the cutoffs are okay percentile पे है ये, percentile को छोड़ देता है एक मिनट के. हाँ, इस पे आ जाओ. If you look at the cutoffs, verbal logic and decision making typically are single digit, typically 10 के ऊपर नहीं गए हैं ये. And quant is the one
easy हो गया था.
हाँ,
quant is the one, हो गया था इसके double digit.
Yeah, quant is the one which has typically gone higher, but last couple of years it has also stuck around in a single digit. Okay, so the important thing to remember here is that clearing the sectional cutoff is never a challenge out here. Verbal के section को देखोगे, अगर verbal section has 50% reading comprehension, out of these 26 odd questions of verbal, about 15 odd questions, more than 50%, about 15 out of 26 would be reading comprehension. These are shorter passage than CAT, but more dense. तो कैट में हम 450-500 वर्ड के पैसेज देखते हैं, there will be 250-300 word passages also. Okay? But they are a little more dense as compared to CAT, but 3 questions each. And यहाँ पे the basic focus has to be understanding the passage. Factual question नहीं होते, they are more like critical reasoning passages. पढ़ के समझ के आंसर करना, समझ आ गया तो हो जाएगा. But the balanced 10 odd questions are your parajumble, couple of parajumbles, couple of vocabulary, couple of grammar. So IPMAT snap के लिए जो grammar करोगे ना, सब काम आ जाएगा यहाँ पे. Okay, and out of those 10 odd questions, you can easily get 6-7 marks. So if you get 6-7 marks there, and you are able to, out of those 15 odd questions of reading comprehension, you get another 6-7 marks, you are safe. Okay, this is for a normal student. But if you are good in verbal, then you should be looking at something like, let's say, 18 to 20 marks in this particular section itself. इसकी खासियत ये है इस पेपर की, out of the 3 sections, 2 sections you clear the cutoff, 3rd section you maximize. So if verbal is your strong point, you look at something like 17-18 or odd marks in this section or 20 marks in this section, and getting about 10 marks each in the other 2 sections. You are safe. Similarly, if quant is your strong point, quant DILR, you can look at about 20-22 marks out there, and playing the cutoff in the other 2, you'll still end up with an overall score of 40. Okay, and same with DM. If you're good in DM, you can get about 15 plus. So अगर अच्छे हो तो verbal and DM, quant would be 18 plus, and DM would be about 15. Okay, but clearing the cutoff is important. No, let me say, no rash diving in this paper. सवाल आता है, समझ आ गया, करो. खास तौर से ये आया वर्बल के अंदर, बेकार के पंगे मत लेना. Gautam, if you can just go back to the previous slide.
This one?
Yeah. हाँ, ये वाली, ठीक है. Now, percentile cutoffs, if you notice, there's a category: engineers males, non-engineers male, females, engineers, non-engineer female. ये category है इनकी. So थोड़ा सा है इसमें फर्क. Now it might look like a huge difference कि male engineer getting a call from XLRI BM at 96 percentile, while female engineer at 91 percentile. मोटा आधे नंबर का फर्क है ये. Half a mark, 0.75 marks. That's the kind of difference. In the worst case, it's going to be a 1 mark difference. Okay, so it is not a huge difference. It looks huge in percentile terms, but in terms of let's say the actual marks in the attempted in the paper, which you get the raw score, it is going to be a negligible difference. Half a mark here or there is the case out here. Okay, so it looks like girls and non-engineers have a huge advantage. The answer is no, not really. Okay. Secondly, when you look at the XLRI HM, here again you will find a similar thing. XLRI key, HRM key, you will find the quant cutoffs are usually a little lower as compared to that of BM. So if you look at QA for BM, let's say engineers male, 88 percentile, but QA for HRM is at 83 percentile. This would be typically about a couple of marks difference because quant में normally scoring high हो जाती है. But last year के पेपर में जहाँ पे scoring low थी, this would again have meant a 0.5, 0.75 kind of a difference. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the others also, QA is low out here. Okay, and the reverse is the case for verbal. Verbal for HRM, the verbal scores are typically higher. The requirement is higher as compared to BM. Okay, and एक मेरी request है सबसे, many students make a mistake of applying only to XLRI जमशेदपुर, XLRI दिल्ली को टिक भी नहीं कहते हैं, औकात से नीचे समझते हैं. Boss, please remember, placements of XLRI Delhi and Jamshedpur are combined. Okay, and all companies are pushed to take students from both the campuses. Okay, they cannot obviously force them, but they push them and ensure that both the campuses get good representation in all the companies. So बिल्कुल उसमें मत सोचना. It has become a reasonably old campus, so अब वो भी नहीं रहेगा कि नया campus है. So my suggestion is XLRI Jamshedpur, XLRI Delhi, both should be applied to. Obviously, first preference has to be Jamshedpur because it's the older campus. Okay, and when it comes to choosing institutes, you would always be better off going to XLRI Delhi, NCR, over let's say an IMT or IMI or maybe even a MDI पे भी question mark आ जाएगा कि MDI जाऊं कि XLRI Jamshedpur जाऊं, and it's not an easy call to take. So in the worst case, it is at least at par, if not above XLRI, above MDI kind of institutes. MDI इंदौर कोझिकोड की लेवल पे तो है ही, तो इसलिए पक्का अप्लाई करना है इसको.
Correct. Just one thing, GP, if I were to add, कि non-engineering female का HRM के लिए it is very very low. Like 68 generally translates to very very low marks, which is why
this would mean about 3 marks lower than the engineers, 3 to 4 marks lower than the engineers.
Correct, which is a huge difference.
Or यहाँ पे 3 to 4 questions lower than the engineers, because 1 mark is 1 question.
Correct. Which means if you're one of those जिसको लगता है I'm not good at quant से डर भी लगता है, CAT में भी लग रहा था, this is actually the paper for you. It's right up your alley.
और DI जो है ना आसान होता है, DI के भरोसे quant के इतना स्कोर तो आ ही जाएगा.
Correct. And second thing, GP, is कई बार लोग अभी जब फॉर्म अप्लाई करते हैं ना, खाली BM करते हैं, HRM नहीं करते. I think even there I would like to call it out that please apply to both of them. HRM apply करके doesn't mean you will end up just doing HR. There are a lot of product oriented roles, consult roles, various other roles that come which all the HR students are eligible for. Maybe just very very few which are categorical, front end finance roles are something that the HR kids might not be eligible for, but everything else they'll be eligible for. So please don't think कि मेरे को HR नहीं करना, मेरे को बैठ के ये नहीं करना, वो नहीं करना, इसलिए मैं ये नहीं करूंगा. Don't do that.
दूसरी चीज है यार, if I have to look at the option in front of me, if I have Excel HRM versus let's say IMI, MDI, IMT, tap me, boss, I will prefer Excel HRM ना, क्योंकि बेसिक्स मैनेजमेंट के तो सब कराएगा ही मुझे वो. एंड एज यू सेड दैट मार्केटिंग, जनरल मैनेजमेंट, कंसल्टिंग वगैरह ऑपरेशंस, आई स्टिल गेट थ्रू देम, सो व्हाई शुड आई नॉट गो अहेड विद इट.
And even the new age roles, GP, product, a lot of people want to go into product now. Correct. Like one of our students, Isha, if you remember, who was there from Delhi CP batch, she went into HRM, then she went to Google product role. She was in HRM. So that's what I think you guys need to keep in mind कि ये नहीं कि मेरे को HR नहीं करना इसलिए नहीं कर रहा. And to all of those who are worried कि मैं quant में उतना अच्छा नहीं हूँ, DI will help you a lot in this paper, because like GP stated, if you're spending even 65 minutes here, spend 30-35 minutes on the 3 DIs ना. Get your 7-8 marks. तब तो quant में खाली 3-4 marks चाहिए. Sectional हो गया. Look at the sectionals.
And look at the last 2 years cutoffs. 8.7, 7.3 for BM and HRM, and again ZAT 24, 5.2 and 4.2. Normally, क्या है, the rule of thumb in general is if you are getting a double digit score in any section, you have more or less cleared the sectional cutoff. ये rule of thumb होता है मेरा इसके अंदर, by and large, unless the paper becomes excessively easy, which was the case in 22 and 23.
करेक्ट. एक चीज जो है जीपी, वंस अगेन आई विल कॉल आउट इज, आप जब मॉक्स लिखोगे जैट के, वंस अगेन डोंट स्टेट दिस इज नॉट जैट स्टैंडर्ड और दिस इज जैट स्टैंडर्ड. प्लीज लुक एट जैट 24 एंड जैट 23 आपके सामने. ZAT 23 cutoff was more than 50% of ZAT 24 almost. So there is nothing called ZAT standard, just like there was nothing called CAT standard. There has been a paper where the quant cutoff is 5. There has been the paper where the quant cutoff is 2.5 times that at 13. You need to experience everything. So I'm just calling it out again. Once bitten, twice shy hota hai. CAT has been an eye-opener for everybody. Please do not let the same mistake happen when you write ZAT mocks. And please write ZAT mocks exactly like you used to write your CAT mocks. उतनी ही शिद्दत से लिखना वो 10 मॉक. ये मत सोचना कि ZAT को अब CAT के अलग वे से अप्रोच करना है. कुछ अलग वे से अप्रोच नहीं करना.